Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. If you guys can hear me. Mic check 1 2. Mic check. Hopefully we don't have an issue. It looks like we may, though. Apologize for this, y'all. This internet has been tripping the past couple days, so hopefully we can get through this. Got 20 people watching. Appreciate y'all riding with me. Yeah, I'm not sure. His internet's been tripping for both of us this week. So let me see. Who we got? Thanks, player. Young Butters. Michael, what's happening? Appreciate y'all. We got back quick. So anyway, I know you guys just heard what I said. So I'm going to show y'all this video. Jesus Christ. So this internet, man, is tripping. I keep getting these error signs because it's, I don't know what's wrong with this internet. We're going to try to ride it out, though. So this is Tulsi Gabbard at on The View.
And you were the first Hindu to run for president. So we want to get just a sense of where you stand on some of the issues. We've talked a lot at this table about the newcomers on the Democratic side being quite progressive on a number of issues. Bernie Sanders, a Democratic socialist, has raised the most money so far of all people. Are you for the Green New Deal, for example?
I first got involved with politics as an environmentalist. I've fought very hard to make sure that everyone has clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and I think we need to take serious action to address climate change. I have some concerns with the Green New Deal and about some of the vagueness of the language in there, so have not co-sponsored that resolution.
What about support for free four-year college tuition?
I think that's something that we can achieve. I think we have to not only look at how can we provide this access to education, but also how do we address the high cost of higher education, student loan debts and increasing interest rates there, as well as how can we leverage technology to both increase access and bring down the cost of education.
And what about universal health care?
That's also something I think that's achievable. You know, it's unacceptable
in this. Do you believe
it's
a right of every American?
I do. I think it's unacceptable in this country that we spend far more on health care than any other country in the world with far worse outcomes.
So does that mean more private health care?
Every single American should get the health care that they need. If there are...
I think everyone with the heart, that sounds great. You know, you want to give that, but there are realities and costs to that. Does that mean taking away all private health care? Because you got to get pretty specific when you make a statement like that.
Yeah, sure. No, I think there's two questions here. One is Medicare for All would provide quality health care for every single American at a cheaper price to every one of us than we are currently paying for health care currently. If folks want to get their own private insurance at the same time, they're free to do that, but making sure that we have this basic quality level of care for every American is what Medicare for All would do, and that's what I support.
Bitch. That's what I support. Period. Now, did you guys see how they came at her? They wouldn't even let her finish a question. And what about Medicare for All? It was just like, and the entire interview was like that. And I'm glad she like stood her ground. And I know it burned their ass when the audience started clapping too. They just looked pissed. Like they just, like she had the nerve to be running. Like they seemed so envious. You guys have to see it. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, y'all can hear me. But yeah, man. And so that interview actually happened right before we had our interview with her. And I was just like, you know, when I saw her, I asked her about it and she told me like, yeah, she was like, it was nothing. You know, she said that she was ready for it and she expects it. It's a part of the game, but I don't know if that's a part of the game. That seemed like a little hate. You know what I mean? I mean, there's things you can question her about. I've been on here talking about her a lot, about her stance on LGBTQ community. And so, you know, I understand questioning somebody and like getting at her and really having a debate, a productive debate, but they wasn't even allowing her to talk. You saw the lady was just cutting her off, and that was the entire interview. And I'm like, what is that worth? What do you get out of that? You know, if it's a back and forth, it's understood. But what do you get out of that? Nothing. And then they got highly upset and irritated. If you saw her roll her eyes, you saw her roll her eyes when everyone clapped. That sounds all good to someone that has a heart. Obviously, you don't have a heart, you know. Obviously, you've never had to deal with not having medical insurance and being in pain and suffering or having to choose between one kid or the other because you don't have enough money to pay for both kids being sick and wondering how you're going to get your insulin the next day because the prices are so high. We understand you've never had to deal with that because you may have had it good. You may have had Your parents may have had money, and that's just not one of your concerns. It's not in your peer view. But have a little compassion, please. So here, I'm going to show you guys now the little trailer that we did for our interview with presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah. If I can find it.
Frankly, the corporate media is just Jill Steining you. You have been basically blacklisted. They tried to do this to Bernie, obviously, in 2016.
We, the people, cannot underestimate the power of our voice. And as we talk about challenging the status quo, we are challenging the establishment, we are challenging the military-industrial complex, we are challenging both the neocon and neo-lib war hawks.
I'm a little feeling it's a contradiction. On one end, you say we need to get out of Syria, but in 2015, you criticized President Obama for not bombing Syria. As far as torture, you said you were torn. This was in response to the Senate torture report. Torture in any form is just wrong.
I will continue to apologize for whatever pain or hardship that I caused.
Why did your views change as far as gay marriage, homosexuality in general, and why should people think it's not just political expediency? Frankly, the corporate media is just Jill.
My bad. Y'all can't even hear me, huh? So that was our interview that was a trailer for our interview that we had with Tulsi Gabbard on Friday. I thought it went well. It was about 30 minutes. She gave us a good 30 minutes, and she was nice. She was sweet. I interviewed her before with the Young Turks, me and Omiki. And Jordan, he pressed her a little bit, asked her questions that concerned people, concerned our audience about her stance on the LGBTQ community, torture. They covered a lot of ground. Jordan, he was trying to kind of get it all in because I think at first he was gonna have like 45 minutes to an hour, and she had to catch a plane, so it ended up being a lot less time than he expected. So he was able to get that in. Hey, you guys, hopefully, I'm looking at this. I keep getting this error sign. Hopefully it doesn't crash again. So we'll keep going. I want to get into a few things. I want to talk about, I know you guys been watching the internet today or the past couple days. And, well, even today has been a very active day. You have Robert Kraft. I don't know how many people in the football, but he got caught in a, and I guess it was a massage parlor in Florida and that massage parlor had happy endings. I honestly didn't know that was a real thing, to keep it 100 with you. It's funny. And I know everyone that's a Patriot hater. I know y'all love this, huh? Y'all love this. But that happened today. R. Kelly got arrested today. He was indicted. And guess who was behind the tape? Michael Avenatti. And we all know who Michael Avenatti is. That dude is, I don't know what to say about him, but he get his hands into everything. But those were some of the issues that plagued our news channel today. But I wanted to talk about Kamala Harris. And I've been just hearing a lot of people going back and forth, and a lot of people just riding for Kamala Harris. And, you know, I'm not a part of that party, man. I'm really not a part of that party, because you guys know how I feel. I go by, you know, your actions, and I go by what you've done, and I go by the things you say and when you lie. And I always talk about how, you know, I think there was like at one point when she was the district attorney, there was, I mean, when she was the attorney general in California, there was some legislation that went forth where they wanted to pass a thing where they gave police officers accountability, but the community would give them accountability. And she didn't vote for it. No, well, she said in when she had the town hall that she didn't vote for it. They thought that she voted against it, but she didn't vote for it. And what you start to see throughout her last year as an attorney general, that what she was doing was the things that she thought would be controversial, because she was about to run for president. The things that she thought would be controversial, she would not vote for. She would just stand out. She would not vote. And that was one thing. And I just want you guys to kind of watch this video, a few videos, but I wanted to talk about her. Hold on. I wanted to talk about her in light of Jussie, I think Jussie Smollett. Let me get his last name right quick. He was the guy from Empire that, the kid from Empire that it seemed like he put a hoax. He said that he was attacked, and he seemed to like insinuate that he was attacked by white supremacists, because he said that they said MAGA, and, you know, they hung a noose over his neck, and poured bleach on him. And as we found out, that none of that happened, and he hired I guess it's alleged that he hired two guys that he knew. The two guys actually said that he paid them to do this. And that's, to me, it's just, it's terrible, because it almost seems like he's feeding off the divide that we have in this country right now. Just the fact that he hung a noose around, he had them hang a noose around his neck, and then he had the guy scream out MAGA. And to keep it 100, me and Jordan was here, and I saw that interview with the lady from ABC, the black lady, and he was crying, and he was like cursing, and I was like, it seemed like he's acting right now. That was the first thing, and I said it to Jordan. I said, I hate to sound like that, because I don't want to sound insensitive, but I'm like, it seemed like he was acting. But one of the reasons that I feel the way I feel about Kamala Harris, and how disingenuous she is, and how fake I think she is her response to the news asking her about how does she feel about, you know, the tweet that she let me grab her tweet right quick. The tweet that she initially sent out when Jussie when he had said that he was attacked. Let's see, the original tweet. White House. Let's see if I can find that tweet. Her initial tweet. It's in here somewhere. But her initial tweet just said that Kamala Harris, let's see, heartbroken, kind as gentle as humans. This is an attempt. Okay, here it go right here. This is her her initial. If I could get past y'all, this thing is tripping. Shoot, I don't even think I can. Okay, thank you, God. All right. So her initial tweet says, Jussie Smollett is one of the kindest, most gentle human beings I know. I am praying for his quick recovery. This is an attempt modern day lynching. No one should have to fear their life because of their sexuality or color or the color of their skin. We must confront this hate. Which I think we all can say that that's a great tweet. Anyone with a heart, anyone that has a pulse would say, yes, of course, this is a modern day lynching. You know, if you know him personally, you know, he's a great person and no one deserves to be treated like that because of their color or their sexuality. Perfectly fine. We find out then, you know, a few weeks later that there's some issues that he lies, and we find out that he actually lied. The police arrest him, and Kamala Harris gets confronted by someone from some news organization, and they ask about the tweet, and just look at her response. Look at her disposition. And this goes to, you know, what I was talking about. You can just see in her whole interaction.
Being confronted with questions about whether or not they were too quick to condemn the attackers in the Jussie Smollett case, including Senator Kamala Harris, who needed a minute to think about whether or not she stood by her previous comment that the attack was an attempted modern-day lynching.
Which tweet? What tweet?
About saying that it is a modern-day lynching, that...
Sorry.
Yes, Jussie Smollett.
Okay, so I will say this about that case. I think that the facts are still unfolding, and I'm very concerned about, obviously.
Harris also told me that she is not a democratic socialist when I asked if that was the direction she would need to go.
What is that? Tell me, what is that? Do you have to be prepared for everything? You have to be prepared to have a heart. You have to be prepared to have compassion. You have to be prepared to, excuse me, Jesus. You have to be prepared to hear a statement. You have to be prepared to hear a question and response. You have to have have preparation for every response. Are you serious? You see her look back. She was looking for somebody to save her, to grab her, or for somebody to say something to try to save her from a question. She asked you, how do you feel about the statement that you made about Jussie, now that we found out that it was a lie, about it being a modern day lynching? What's wrong with that? That's not a gotcha question. Oh, I think it's terrible if it's true. That's a terrible thing, but we have to wait and see what's going on if that's true. Why can't you say that? It's completely acceptable for someone to hear that a guy was beat up, bleach poured on him, a noose hung around his neck, and somebody yells out MAGA. It's completely understandable for your reaction to be, that is terrible. It's completely understanding for your reaction to be quick and fast, especially if you know that person not to be a liar. That's completely understandable. It's not a gotcha question then that you find out that he lies and then someone asks you about how you feel about that, that you stutter and you look for somebody else to come save you or do something. Answer the question. because you fake. You know what I mean? You can't. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's the same thing as saying, I used to smoke weed when I was in college, listening to Tupac and Biggie in 1989. But you know, before they had an album, yeah, they sent me their demo tapes before they came out. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Opportunistic. That's where we get the attitude from. You just, that's exactly what it is. And, you know, and that things like that is the thing that's what I'm talking about. And you see it throughout her career. If you guys look at her background, you'll see and you guys, anytime she's questioned, you see, I mean, her actions for the simple, like, think about this. She says, okay, they're a single payer. You tell me, if you know that you're going to be running for the president of the United States and that you're going to be running as a Democrat for the president of the United States, and you were for Medicare for all, a single payer, isn't that a good campaign? Isn't that a good campaign slogan or a good campaign approach? Like, this is in your resume that in California, we were the first to pass single payer. Wouldn't it? If you're progressive and you're for Medicare for all, to me, that's something good to have on my resume to say, when I was in California, we passed single payer. But you didn't vote on that. And I would argue that you didn't vote on it because you didn't know which way the wind was blowing. And so you was like, I'm going to stay out of it. Just the same way you stayed out of the vote when they were trying to give the police some accountability. And here go a video, you guys, on that stance. And you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm preaching to the choir. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you don't, holla at me.
When you were Attorney General, you opposed a legislation that would have required your office to investigate fatal shootings involving police officers. Why did you oppose that bill?
So I did not oppose the bill. I had a process when I was Attorney General of not weighing in on bills and initiatives because as Attorney General, I had a responsibility for writing the title and summary.
Senator Harris had a CNN town hall event. At one point, Tapper is delving into her tenure as California's Attorney General, and that's sort of a tough position to be in, as a Democrat particularly, because as the Attorney General, you are in charge of the well-being and the professional development and the success of all the police officers in the state. And on the other hand, the base voters of the Democratic Party were really seizing on the issue of police use of force around the same time that Harris was in office. One of the criticisms that has been leveled against her was that she never took a position on a bill to require an independent investigation when there's a fatal shooting by police officers. This is the issue when you talk about Ferguson, when you talk about Eric Garner, when you talk about any number of black men usually who are unarmed, who are shot by police officers. There's often an accountability gap in the results that happen when you investigate these things. Harris did not take a position on the bill, and Tapper asked about it. Why didn't you take a position on this bill? Why did you oppose it? And Harris said, actually, I didn't oppose it. My job as Attorney General meant that I had to write some pieces of the legislation, the title and the summary. And so my process was not to comment and not to take a position. But you look at the website for the California Attorney General, and we found like 20 news releases or more where she was taking a position either in favor or against some kind of measure that was in the legislature. So it didn't add up to us, and we checked with them. And what they said was, okay, so she misheard Jake Tapper's question, and she gave a response that was not apt. As it is, California has local district attorneys investigate, when there's a shooting. Harris herself is the former district attorney for San Francisco. And so she said, I was concerned that, those district attorneys are accountable to local voters. The voters can make a change here if something happens that they don't like, and it's not as easy to make that change, if you sort of shift this process over to the state attorney general. her staff, and they walk you through all the nuance, and it adds up, you know, what they're saying. But it's still worth fact-checking because this town hall was one of her first big exposures as a presidential candidate.
Man, so as you guys see, what she's saying is, this is my rule. This is something that I do. But as he said, there was other measures that she voted on, but this is something she does. Yeah, she does it because she has no stance. She has no conviction. That's what I'm talking about. Only thing, her thing is, just like Hillary, to get in the office by any means necessary. I've always been for, what did she say? I always been for gay rights. Come on now. I respect you more, Hillary, if you said, you know what, I've grown. Yeah, I was then, and now I've grown. I've realized some things. We appreciate that more. She's the same thing. This is, no, I didn't vote. What I normally do, but then you see her vote for a lot of other things, and she didn't vote for single payer either. But you know why she didn't weigh in on that? Because both of them are controversial. And both of them, either one can make her seem like, you know how the Democrats, they're real scared about being soft on crime. One can be that, and the other can be just way too progressive. And she didn't know which way the tide was moving, so she just stayed neutral and didn't weigh in. You can't be neutral on a moving train. When you're neutral, that means you're an opportunist. You're a sucker because you have no conviction, you have no heart. You go anywhere that there's an opportunity for you to gain and manipulate. You know what I mean? And until you show me something different, that's what I'm going to believe. You know, and so people don't, you know, and to piggyback on that, we was watching Roland Martin. And Roland Martin was digging in Bernie for some reason and, you know, talking about Bernie in relation to Kamala Harris or in relation to just being a Democrat. You know, it's so crazy, like people's arguments, right? They're arguing on whether he's a well, he's not really a Democrat. Oh, yes. That's why we want him in office. Yes. Because Democrats are just like Republicans. Yes. Why is that an arguing point? Yes. As if he's no better. You guys, I'm going to show you guys some of this argument. It's like 2 clips. I'm going to show you like the beginning of these 2 arguments because they really go in on Bernie as if he doesn't have any black supporters and as if he's out of touch. He was 2016. Really, kind of that's what you can infer from the entire from these conversations, that he's too old and that he's like 2016, like he's last year, like no one's checking for Bernie. And Bernie, the money that he raised, what was it? Well, everyone raises money. You know, they got an excuse for everything, but I want to play some of that for you guys. Hopefully this is the right one. I'm gonna play you a bit of both of them so you can see them.
Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, folks, let's go to our next story. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, an independent, has announced he is running for president in 2020. Here is some of the video that he released.
The fight against injustice has been the work of his life.
Jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. We are not going to retreat on women's rights.
Sanders pushing a bold agenda that includes protecting DACA recipients and comprehensive immigration reform.
You don't rip little children away from the arms of their mother.
A major announcement from Amazon. Amazon will raise its minimum wage to $15 an hour. 350,000 workers.
Thousands of workers at Disney World will get raises. It's a victory for Bernie Sanders.
It's a victory for all workers.
Wow. All right, folks. Of course, Senator Sanders ran in 2016. Lots of support there. Lost to Hillary Clinton. But here's the other piece here, and I'm going to go to my panel in just a second. Of course, there's a number of people who have jumped into the race so far. But remember, the Democrat National Committee also changed their rules. And that is Bernie Sanders is going to have to sign documentation saying he is a Democrat. I'm going to start with you first, Julian. And that is there are a lot of people. First of all, Senator Sanders had significant support. There were a lot of people who were angry saying, wait a minute, how are you telling the Democratic Party what to do when you're not even a Democrat? So you have that. But also, he had some black support in 2016, but he really ignored black folks in a significant way, did not really focus on African Americans until after Iowa and New Hampshire, and he was really behind and got obliterated by Clinton in those southern states because he did not have an established black outreach plan for African Americans. Your thoughts on him getting into this race?
You know, Leah Daughtry, who was the manager of the 2016, also the 2008 Democratic conventions, has really talked a lot about the fact that the man is not a Democrat. He didn't follow Democratic Party rules. He just kind of parachuted in there, took advantage of the opportunity, you know, some of Hillary's weaknesses. Amassed a lot of delegates.
They're scared?
But you are not a Democrat. So, yes, the Democratic Party has done the right thing by saying, if you want our nomination, you're going to have to be a Democrat. Stop playing this footsie immigration, independent stuff. The other thing about it is he really, although he has had great black support, Gus Newport, who used to be the mayor of Berkeley back in the day, Danny Glover, my homeboy, friend and colleague, folks like that, Cornel West, they supported him. But these are folks who are 30,000 feet up. They're not on the grassroots in terms of organizing. And so from that perspective, their endorsements meant something, but it did not translate into street heat. People liked his ideas and had antipathy for Hillary, but with the new crop of candidates, Kamala, Cory Booker, you know, Amy Klobuchar, the shine is off him. He's not, and last time it was novelty campaign. This time it's like, okay, old boy, sit down. That's what I'm saying. I know that's a little ageist, but I just really think he needs to sit down.
But here's the piece. Here's the piece you have here. Malik, Democrats absolutely want to beat Donald Trump. And they're asking the question, who's the best person who can? In 2016, it was three candidates. Hillary Clinton, Senator Bernie Sanders, and Martin O'Malley. Well, and really he didn't. Jim Webb was in, but really it was just two. Yeah. This time, you're literally going to have, right now you have 10. You may have as many as 15. Democrats are preparing for as many as 20 candidates. This is a different ball game because not only this, the key, which I think works in Bernie Sanders' favor, you're not going to need 51% to win. Yes. You could very well see somebody winning a caucus or a primary with 28 or 30% of the vote. Your thoughts about Senator Sanders jumping into the race?
Absolutely. I actually think that Bernie still has a chance. If you look at the platform that the Democratic Party has taken since 2016, you know, they pretty much have, well, I won't say pretty much, they have followed in some ways, many ways, the Bernie Sanders playbook as far as just the things that, well, you can call it progressivism or socialism or whatever you want to call it, but the party itself has actually taken that left tilt. And Bernie, I think Bernie in many ways is responsible for that. To your point about the number of people in the campaign, I think it's awesome. I think it's great. You know, just like last time around, I think we had about 15 or so candidates. Whittle it down. Donald Trump ended up becoming the candidate, the nominee. I think that same thing happening on the Democratic side is very good. You know, for people like me who was a Democrat in 2016, you know, I knew that Hillary Clinton was not an option. So I did see someone like Bernie coming along. He really did excite a lot of people who had decided that they would under no circumstance support Hillary Clinton. I think you're going to have some of those same people now still gunning for Bernie, but when you have all of the people that you said, you know, and don't, you know, I think we just heard something about Joe Biden is still maybe considering. entering the race, I think it's going to be interesting. But the point about Kamala Harris is that I think what I heard on the way here is that within 4 hours, Bernie Sanders raised more money than Kamala Harris did in her first, 24 or 48 hours. So although people are kind of dismissing Bernie, I wouldn't hold him out. I wouldn't dismiss him so easily.
Look, here's the deal, Cleo. Senator Bernie Sanders, out of all the candidates who are running, he begins with a national donor base.
$14 million.
It's new, and it's new and fresh. But here's the deal. What I also understand, Cleo, that it's always not about money. I go back to Senator Phil Gramm when he ran for president, spent a ton of money, and I think he got one delegate. John Connally, who was governor of Texas.
Right.
Governor of Texas. Tons of money, didn't get much. Governor Jeb Bush in 2016, same thing.
Yep.
The difference this time around is that the sheer number of candidates and the map is different. It's no longer Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina. Early voting in California. Will have started before the folks vote in Iowa, Cleo. And so we're looking at a totally different landscape in 2020 than we did in 2016. Cleo, go ahead.
So, you tell me that doesn't irk you, because it irks me. I'm gonna just say one thing. He's talking about the landscape. Let me cut this off because it's tripping me out. He's talking about the landscape is different. You're absolutely right. The landscape is absolutely different. He got first one thing that he pointed out. He said that he has a nationwide bowl of supporters, of donors, right? And that really doesn't mean nothing, because all these other candidates in the past had donors and they didn't do anything. But you know one difference that they didn't mention? That everyone else had big donors. They had people, corporations donating all types of money. Senator Bernie Sanders has donors that's donating $27 each. Those are voters. He got voters donating, not corporations. You think corporations is humans? They only humans when it comes to money. Corporations can't vote. Bernie Sanders has voters. So all those small donations around this nation, they're voters. That's one thing that they're not bringing up, that you can't argue. Yeah, it may have been a lot of people that raised a lot of money really quick in the past, but they had corporations behind them. He has people behind him. And you can't argue that fact, period, point blank. There's nothing you can say about that. You know, and you talking about that he lost the South. Yeah, he lost the South, and he lost the South not because, well, maybe it probably had a little bit to do with him, his connection. Well, of course, I mean, I don't think you can argue the connection. Yeah, but I think it had a little bit to do with his approach. I think he's corrected a lot of things, and I think it had to do with a lot of people, black people and white people, older people in the South that vote, that will vote for who they know, who they're comfortable with. Period. That's period. Any old person is like that. My aunt still today, she's like, I'm not voting for Bernie Sanders. My uncle, I'm not voting for Bernie Sanders. And when Barack first started running, they wasn't voting for Barack. They were going to vote for Hillary because that's who they were used to. Until, you know, he's charismatic, he can get to him, and Barack Obama knows how to reach people. He has that. That's a part of him. You know, he can speak. He can talk. And he had a populist message. And people believed in him. I believed in him. You know what I'm saying? And so that's understandable. And that's what they're not bringing up. Like, people are, for the most part, especially if you're not campaigning, and especially also if you have this flag on you that's has this black cloud over it since the beginning, since the Cold War, of being a socialist. You know what I'm saying? And old people hear that, old black people hear that, they're like, no, we're saying we don't know that old guy. We don't want the, you know, they're not even really looking at the politics. They're not understanding like what he's saying is going to benefit y'all. They're more comfortable with voting for someone that they're comfortable with. So yes, the landscape is different. It's different because people paid attention in 2016, period. I mean, you can say it's different because you got the candidates in, but they're the same type of Kamala Harris, Cory Booker. Come on, man. This dude voted to keep to keep drug prices high because he didn't want to lose his donors. He don't care about the people. He care about his career. And people are going to see that. You got to understand. More than likely, you're going to have the largest turnout of voters that we probably have ever seen. Period. Even larger than the midterms. Because it's like, you know, it's like, I don't want to say do or die, but people are really scared when they think about Donald Trump being in for another 4 years. They're scared to think about him being in now. And you're going to have a lot of young people. There's going to be a lot of people from Puerto Rico that remember what Donald Trump did and love what Bernie Sanders said. Remember Bernie Sanders reaching out to them. People from Puerto Rico that live in New York and live in Florida now that can vote, that's going to be able to vote for president, because in Puerto Rico, you can't vote for president. There's going to be people that kids that were involved in the Parkland shooting, that was in the 9th grade when the shooting happened, that are going to be able to vote in 2020. Kids that was in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade that's going to be able to vote in 2020. That know that Trump didn't do anything, and know that anyone that mirrors his politics or that's a Democrat, they understand it. They're paying attention. They're really not people. Obviously, they wasn't paying attention to the reason that Donald Trump became president. They wasn't paying attention to people feeling like they wasn't heard. You know what I mean? These kids feel like they're not being heard. And that's going to be a huge part of the voting block. And they're not even taking that into consideration. I know it's early, but this is crazy, man. This is good. And they just don't get it. I know they don't get it. You can't make people get it. But here go another video I want you guys to check out. Hopefully it starts on time.
Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Folks, yesterday we told you about Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders announced his run for president. In the first 24 hours, he raised $5.9 million from over 223,000 individuals. Now, he beat the previous 24-hour winner, California Senator Kamala Harris. She had $1.5 million in her first 24 hours. Now, there's another number that might be a problem for Senators Harris, Booker, as well as other candidates. This is from an Economist YouGov poll from earlier this month. Net favorability is the difference between a candidate's favorable ratings and a candidate's unfavorable rating. You can see that Sanders has a higher net favorability than Harris or Booker, 31% to 24% to 23%. That's not a big gap between Sanders and the others, but if Sanders keeps making statements like this, it might be a problem.
We have got to look at candidates, not by the color of their skin, not by their sexual orientation or their gender, and not by their age. I mean, I think we have got to try to move us toward a non-discriminatory society which looks at people based on their abilities, based on what they stand for.
First of all, when I discussed this on social media, and folks are saying that the question that was asked of him, and so guys, if you could actually pull that, which is important, that the question dealt with his age. Well, we should have had the question because that gives you the nuance. So the question apparently was asking him about his age, and this was his response. But the reality, though, Monique, is that Senator Sanders has been making these various comments about identity politics. Now, what's interesting with his statement when he says, well, we've got to do this. First of all, there have been 45 presidents and 1 black, no females. The reality is what he said is what folks have been doing. That you have seen, folks have been voting for folks based upon policies, based upon issues, and not based upon gender, not based upon race. And what you're dealing with here, I believe, is a candidate who still is bothered by the fact that he didn't get the nomination in 2016, that there were a lot of people who supported Hillary Clinton, who did want to see a female president. And here's the reality, Senator Bernie Sanders. It's been a lot of white men who have been presidents, senators, House members, Supreme Court justices. And so all of a sudden, when you get a splash of diversity, it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Really?
Right, Roland. He's like a Brian McKnight song right now, One Last Cry. He is not going to fare well with Black women. He is not going to fare well with people who are moderate, because he's far left of anything that would make sense for them. And frankly, he never speaks to the hate of the Bernie bros that are the real impetus and push for his fundraising and for his support system. They are notorious for being disrespectful and hating Black women. They're notorious for being Twitter thugs and internet thugs. And there's a support that has very little to do with him, but more so has to do with everything else they don't like. And anytime he's asked a question and he could have an opportunity to deal directly with race, with racism, with racial issues, he does one of those love sees no color things. And frankly, it's just not going to work. I mean, even a novice at this point can understand that that is not an acceptable answer.
Scott, this is very simple. This is how you answer the question. Doesn't matter what my age is, doesn't matter how I look, I'm going to compete for every vote in the country. In the conversation.
But he was sending a broader message there, because what Monique said is true. They got a lot of other challenges and a lot of other, limousine liberal type issues, as my mother used to say. But in regard to the race, Bernie Sanders is not going to be the only one in this progressive left space. Nope. There are going to be a lot of other people. And every political race, every election is different, whether it's local or federal. So you can't look back on 4 years ago or 2 years ago and think, okay, he's going to do better because Hillary Clinton's not there. The reality is he raised a lot of money within a few hours or a few days. Kamala did the same thing, because they either had the name recognition or the highest concentration of followers. It doesn't matter how you start. It matters how you end. And when these debates start, because 30+% of the Democratic Party are Black women and or Black men, that's going to be split too. Someone out of those 15 to 20 candidates have got to figure out how to build a coalition of all of those interests, moderate and left, black, white, yellow, and brown, and that's the person that's going to win. And you might only need 25 to 30%
that's all you're gonna need.
Of the piece to win.
Robert, this is very simple. Bottom line is here, okay? So again, when you listen to Sanders, and this is not just in this interview. The interview he did with Esquire several months ago, things that he said for the last 3 years. And I have personally criticized him, saying, dude, when you keep talking about, because he's always identity politics. Well, the reality is, the phrase identity politics stems from the 1960s, when African Americans were fighting for rights that we should not have had to fight for, and should have been granted simply being born. The problem is, that's a poll-tested phrase. Anytime there are people who have been oppressed, who have been fighting for what they should be granted. African Americans, women, Latinos. And so what you have here really, and this is what Sanders has to understand, it's not what he might be implying. It's simply what we are receiving or in.
So, a couple things I'm gotta unpack what he said. Hold on, I think that's Jordan. Yep, that's Jordan. So a lot of these things I got to unpack. Somebody said I should cut up these clips. You're right. I was doing some work What's going on? I was doing some work, so I didn't have time to cut him up. But so I'll go a little backwards. Now, one thing that let me cut this off. It's irritating me. So the one thing that he said at the end, he said talking about rhetoric, ideas, and how you speak. And I think he brought up, he said, it's not what you say, it's how it's being taken. That's probably the only good point that was made in that entire conversation, because I think he's right. I think if you don't take the time to like explain and have people get what you're saying so you won't be misunderstood, then you're going to be misunderstood, and they're going to take what you say a different type of way. Me and Jordan we have this conversation a lot with approach, and your approach should be as important as your point, especially when you really want people to get it. You have to take into consideration that, just culturally, just outside of race and everything, demographics, have pockets of cultures in that everybody interacts and talks and relates differently. And you have to be able to make one point 50 different ways, especially when you're running for president. And so if you don't want to be misunderstood, then you have to take into consideration how you're coming across. I think that's very important. It does matter how they take it, because even if you're making the greatest point in the world, if they take it the wrong way, then you're losing. And if the intention is that people get what you're saying, then it's important that you kind of like mold your approach to whoever you're talking to. And now, so I get that part. I completely understand that, and I think it's very important. I think it's imperative, actually, especially like I said, if you are trying to get a point of, like, it matters to you. Sometimes people say, "Fuck it, I'm not trying to. Whoever don't want to hear me, don't hear me, and whoever get it, get it." If you have that mentality, then it's whatever. But if you really want people, if it's important that people get what you're saying, then it has to be important that you're not misunderstood, and it has to be important that your approach is correct, and it's to where they get it, to where they get what I'm saying. So there won't be any misunderstandings. That point is taken. Probably the only good point that he made. But I think he probably said that. Commenting on the clip that he played of Bernie Sanders, when Bernie Sanders was talking about, we need to stop voting for people just because they're black or they're white or because of their gender. And I think he's absolutely right. I think the reason why we shouldn't have voted for Hillary Clinton because she's white. Because she's a woman. The reason why we shouldn't have voted for Barack Obama because he's black. Because if their values don't match ours, why am I voting for them? I'm going to vote against my own interest just because he's black or just because she's a woman? That's what he's saying. He's saying that vote for your values. It shouldn't matter the color of the person. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's probably what, excuse me, I was drinking soda, sorry. That's probably what Ronald was commenting on. I assume that's what he was commenting on when he said that, it doesn't matter what you say, it'll matter how people take it. You know what I'm saying? Because, him mentioning identity politics. Now me, when it comes to the idea of identity politics, I am not in the wheelhouse of voting for anyone because of how they look or who they are. But if anyone's definition of identity politics, meaning that people's experience are different in this country because they're black, because they're a woman, because they're gay, absolutely. And all that needs to be taken into consideration. Absolutely. But I'm not going to vote for you for office because you're black, because you're a woman, or because you're gay. Period. Not going to do it. And I think that's what Bernie Sanders was saying, is that we're not going to just throw our vote away to someone just because they look like us. You know what I'm saying? If they look like us and they have the same politics that we have, if they have the same interests that we have, then yes, absolutely, let's do it. But not solely on it. And I think that's exactly what he was saying. And for for some reason, they took it the wrong way. And you saw, I think it was the other guy, he said something about them, you know, a lot of people being in the race and them making a lot of money. I really don't remember everything that he's saying. But, oh, the lady was talking about how black people or black women, he doesn't have a large black women, the black woman vote on his side is not big, it's not significant. And that could be true. I don't know the statistics. It could be true. But I do know one black prominent woman, ooh, my shoulder, that supports him, that I love to death. And her name is Nina Turner. I know Nina Turner supports her. And I know Nina Turner can turn out votes. And I know there's a lot of other black people that support him. I mean, I don't know even the percentage of the world, but all my black friends do. Because he's in with their values, because they're curious enough to look and to check out his politics. And he's been consistent, even when he's been wrong. And if you tell him he's wrong, at least he will open himself up to change. When the girls from Black Lives Matter jumped up on the stage, he didn't kick them out the way or tell them to move or be smart with them and say, well, then you run for president. He gave them the mic. You know what I mean? And he's growing. I don't doubt that he lives in Vermont and he doesn't have the interaction with black people, really understand the black experience in America. I'm sure you understand it to a point, but you can't really understand the black experience unless you're black, really. You know what I'm saying? You can't really understand it completely, just as I can't completely understand the experience of a rape victim and why they do what they do and why, you know, they may not say that they were raped when they were raped. You know, I can't get that. I can empathize up until a point, but that's it, you know. But he's growing, you know, and I think what's up? You gonna just stare in my face like that? Because you what's up?
I tell you have a lot of good comments. You might want to read.
Okay, okay, get out of my face. Jesus Christ, he's just staring at me like a poor dog. You know what I'm saying? Like an overtaker. What do they call an overseer? Overseer. Jordan think you run the slave camp here. But anyway, yeah, and I think he's growing, and I saw that, and I support him, and a lot of people I know support him, and he will get a large majority of the black vote. Period. Obviously, it's going to be some people that's just not going to vote for him, but if he definitely when he make it to the general, it's a done deal. But if people are listening, like I listened, I had to listen. I didn't know who he was initially. But once I started listening, once I started reading, once I started seeing his track record, once I saw when he used to be in office at the Capitol yelling, and the whole Capitol was empty because they didn't want to hear what he had to say because he was an independent, and he was yelling about the same thing he's yelling for today. I'm like, okay, let's do it, and I'm with him, you know. And he said he got to get like they brought up the black men, but the male vote, and I want to show y'all a little clip of somebody that represents the black male vote. If y'all would be so, let me see if I can grab a hold of this. Where is he at?
Are you planning on supporting him this time? I know that you were a huge fan of Bernie's the last time we saw you when he last ran. Are you planning on supporting him this time around?
Yeah, and a very big reason why is because of Nina Turner. Nina Turner, who's a former senator out of Ohio, is an African-American woman. She's dynamic. She is our generation's Shirley Chisholm, for real, not for play. She is currently the leader of our revolution, his organization. And Nina called me personally and said, Michael, I think this is something you should be doing. So because of Nina Turner, you've seen me support Stacey Abrams. You saw me ask Sanders to support Stacey Abrams. So I would like nationally, not only, am I supporting Bernie, I would like the world nationally to know that I'm supporting him in large part because of former Senator Nina Turner.
Do you think that he has a good chance of beating Donald Trump?
I don't think you beat Magneto without Professor X. So we need the total antithesis of what we say we don't like about Trump, and the total antithesis of that is Bernie Sanders. You know, and my thing is, you don't put out a fire without water, and we need water right now.
Can you just give me a couple of details of why you like him as a candidate?
Okay. Do you like and respect Dr. Martin Luther King?
Yes. Of course.
So Dr. King, if you guys watch King in the Wilderness, in his last 3 years of life, pretty much all of his friends had abandoned him. The organizations he had started had kind of left him alone. But his things were anti-war, actually the eradication of poverty, and the upliftment of workers' rights, and the restoration of nobility to basically humanity. No other presidential candidate I've seen in my life has an agenda that matches Dr. King's agenda with more points than Bernie Sanders. So my support of Bernie Sanders, my support of Senator Sanders is not about personality, it's not about politics. It is about the agenda that I saw Dr. King and my grandmother and people who marched for all of our civil rights finally is on a platform of a politician, and I'm led by principles and morals, not by men. So his principles, his morals, and his agenda is wrong.
Yep. I feel the same way. You know? And everybody, y'all know, if y'all didn't know who Big Mike was before Bernie Sanders, y'all know him now for sure. And so, there you go. That's a large following right there. You know what I'm saying? Of a black man who has a large fan base who supports Bernie Sanders. And if you guys don't know, this is a super chat. So if y'all feeling super, don't forget that we are doing our GoFundMe. Nowadays, we are at 44,625. If you guys feeling super, leave something on the super chat. If you're feeling great, leave something in the GoFundMe so that we can get out there and do what we do. Y'all know what we do. So, identity politics. Now, when me and Jordan was in this actually was in a few places that me and Jordan went, but a couple places that I remember is Chicago and Detroit. Chicago and Detroit. Chicago during the summer, Detroit this year, and they were the people in Detroit was talking about the water and how they're spending a lot of money to build up downtown area, but they're not doing anything for the inner cities. Chicago, same complaint, and one of their bigger complaints was that one of the girls said, she said, you know how all the time we thought if we had someone that looked like us in office that they would like have our agenda in mind and they would address the needs that we have in the inner city. And they said from their experience, they're just puppets. They're just people that they put in place to push their agenda. They're as bad as any white Republican or white Democrat because the only thing that they're thinking about is themselves. They're trying to get themselves in position. And they'll do whatever they got to do to get in position. They don't have any morals. Everyone that they've had to deal with that's been black, that's been in their community in South Chicago has done nothing for South Chicago, but done everything that the mayor had in mind. Everything that was part of the mayor's agenda, they was in favor of. And when it came to the community, nothing. And this is a person of color. And in Detroit, a person of color that didn't address any of their issues. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you can find that in a lot of places. Bad come in all type of color, corrupt come in all type of color. And especially if you're more preoccupied with your position than the people, you're going to say, yeah, look at all these preachers that just shout out and told people to go vote for Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? All these preachers that get kickbacks. They get to be in Trump's office, black preachers that's telling their congregation to go vote for Trump. Some of them telling them God told me to. And that's only because they're looking out for themselves. They ain't looking out for nobody else but themselves. Period, point blank. You know what I mean? And that's what and that's what happens. It's either we get somebody that, I mean, to even vote against your own interests. We either get somebody that look like us, put him in there so he can push our agenda forward, or, you know, we just go into the church, offer the church money. The church don't even live in the community. They got this huge church in Detroit, right? The preacher don't live in the community. The church don't have to pay taxes. And they just eating off the community. They're eating off the community. And half of them, if there was a tragedy or some type of storm or some devastation, they wouldn't even let the people in to sleep. Remember that happened in Texas with the preacher that had the mega church. He wouldn't open his doors. Big church that for the most part, the people in the community paid for. And he wasn't willing to open his doors for people that lost their homes during that storm, during that Hurricane 5. So no, I'm not with that at all. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at your history. I'm looking at your disposition. I'm looking at when you caught off guard like Kamala Harris. When you can't be genuine and ask a question, you can't be genuine enough when you don't know something, say, you know what, I need to look that up. I'm not sure of that. I need to check that out and I'll get back to you. I'm looking at all that because that shows me your character. You know what I mean? That shows me your disposition, that you're a human, that you're not so preoccupied with messing up or seeming a certain way. And whatever that way is, whatever the standard is for the establishment, that I can't not know anything, that I'm not human enough to not know every topic of every issue that I can actually say, you know what, I'm gonna get back to you, you know, because I don't know that. And I just spit out some BS. So that's, you know, it's these, they obviously either don't want to hear, not trying to hear, or maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe Ronald's right. Maybe maybe Bernie's being misunderstood. That could be true. You know what I'm saying? People misunderstand me a lot. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of say something. I know what I mean in my head and in my heart, and I kind of say something, and it comes off the wrong way, and it comes out the wrong way. But it wasn't my intention, and now I offended this person, and I didn't mean to, but to them, they walked off and they don't want to talk to me no more. I get that. I can understand misunderstandings, and that's why I think it's imperative that you are as poised and diligent about your approach as you are about, you know, your message, because you want everybody to get it. Let's see what some people saying. How y'all feel about that? Oh, we got 171 people on here. So, you guys have some questions, holla at me. Feel the burn. This guy has a platform and he won't talk about a dire state in the U.S. Gang, what is that, player? Talk to me. This guy has a platform. This guy does have a platform, pimping. And I can't talk about nothing I'm not familiar with, so holla at me. I'm open. African American. Oh, AA, African American. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know acronyms like that. Oh, the African American dire state in the U.S. Hey, somebody on here that's on here often enough, tell them, let him know what I talk about. ADOS gang is asking why I'm not talking about African American black issues. Somebody please educate them. And it's okay that you don't tune in a lot, but pimping, I'm focused on that. The fact that we are permanent underclass in this society held up by the U.S. government. So, ADOS gang, tune in more, man. You tune in more, you'll see me. That's all I talk about, really, player. So Next time, I just got through talking. You're not listening. I just got through talking to you about your approach. This guy has a platform and he won't talk about, hey, the approach is, hey, man, is there some black issues? Holla at me. Talk to me. You got to get at me like that. But that's all I talk about, pimp. I talk about that a lot, player. So if you tune in more, you'll see it more. Because I'm black, and that's what I care about, pimping. Tahoe, 0 punches. Bernie. Feds, I found Black Winner channel. The Black Whiner channel. Yeah, the Black Whiner channel. Sniff, sniffle. That's funny. This old lady loves you. I love you too, Justine. So that's the size of. Hey, Jordan. Yeah. You want to say something to the people? What? I'm about to sign off. You want to say something to the people? They want to hear from you. That's what they told me. Jordan about to come in right quick. Highlight y'all. He said, some guy on there said, this black guy got a platform, he don't talk about black issues. I'm like, that's all I talk about.
You don't talk about black issues, that's all you talk about.
Exactly.
Do I need the headphones?
Yeah, you do, because you got to hear.
Where am I looking? There?
Yeah, you're looking right there.
Folks, I had a lovely day, to tell you the truth. It's been a long time since I've had a day off, so I went. A friend of mine was nice enough to take me to a spa, not a spa where the oligarchy goes, but a spa where working people goes. I'm a little dehydrated because I was in like 3 different saunas. Then there was an igloo room, so I feel fairly rejuvenated and ready for the long trek ahead. Because it is a long trek ahead. Yeah. We got, not only are we lucky enough to have Tulsi Gabbard on the show Sunday, that was obviously recorded already, so be there noon Eastern time, but Ty and I, if we're able-bodied, which is questionable on your end, if we're able-bodied and have the funding, we are ready to rock and roll on this campaign trail. I think Bernie's announcement rally will be in the next week or so, so looking forward to going to cover that. Obviously, we are going live on Sunday like we do every Sunday to raise money. I think we're almost at $45,000 on the GoFundMe. Ooh, these keep falling out of my ear.
You don't need them on. They can hear you. You don't need them on.
Obviously, we're doing this to raise money, and I'm excited because obviously, getting Tulsi Gabbard is a big deal for status quo. Having a presidential candidate, especially one that's really getting screwed by the corporate media. I definitely think it was a substantive interview. There's probably some places I could have gone tougher, but I'll let you be the judge of that. So tune in at noon Eastern, Sunday, right here. Tell people who are progressive. You'd be so shocked. I'm still seeing a large number of people. We're about to be 1 year old, status quo. I still see a whole lot of people that used to watch us at the Young Turks still have no idea status quo exists. Which
hold on, AOS. I'm not taking it personal, player. I was just telling you I do talk about it, and your approach is important.
He's taking it personal. No. There's so many people that don't even know status quo exists because of YouTube's algorithm and suppression and all that. So you all are our ambassadors. So not only are you amazing with the funding, we thank you, but definitely let people know to tune in Sunday at noon Eastern. Ty and I, after the interview, will be going for a few hours to keep raising money. If God is good and if there is a God, we'll get to $50,000 by Sunday. I think we could do it. We're almost at 45. Can we raise 5,000?
If there is a God, do you see how much we raised?
That's true. If there is a God,
there is a God.
So we'll hopefully, if all goes well, if you like the journalism you see with Congresswoman Gabbard, we'll have extra money because we want to hit the ground running. Not only covering Bernie, but there's so many other things that we'd like to cover in the next few months. And Ty, he's been with me for a few days. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He just won't stop. So many ideas he has for status quo. And we're going to dress up the set here. We might get a green screen. We might do quite a few things. So thank you for watching, obviously, and definitely tune in Sunday. Also, very important point. Make sure you start getting in the habit of going to statusquo.com because we have a website. We're posting not only our videos from YouTube, but content for members. So if you're a member, that's where you go to get the behind-the-scenes bonus content. We also have articles that we're writing there, original stories. So we want to get people in the habit of going to the website, because that's another great way to kind of work around YouTube's, 10% success rate of notifying you when we post videos or when we're live. So it's very remarkable that I'm seeing certain channels with like a quarter of the subscribers we have getting like triple the views. So if that tells you something. So definitely go to statuscoup.com. If you have not entered your email on statuscoup.com, please do that. That's a huge component of trying to grow Status Coup. We need to grow our email list. We're not going to flood you constantly. We send emails, when we have news, when, where we're going.
AOS Gang just gave us $2. Tell them much love.
$2. Much love.
Much love. Pimpin', much love. I like you already, player.
Much love. Very, very important. Not only obviously fundraising is important, but to grow our email list. Also, I don't have the link, so Michael, if you're in the chat, if you could find the iTunes link, go to our podcast page and iTunes, Status Coup on iTunes. Leave a 5-star if you can, 5-star rating, which is super important, and leave a review, because that's how we move up on iTunes. That's another way we're going to grow, bring in new sources of revenue, all that, and most importantly, be an ambassador. Spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family. They don't even necessarily need to be diehard into politics, Water is not a political issue. It's a human issue, Lead is not a political issue. It's a human issue. Poverty is honestly a human issue. I mean, I think our reporting on the road covering the General Motors layoffs, frankly, it was the only reporting that was speaking with workers laid off, current auto workers. But
you got $5 from Shusley.
Thank you, Schultzley, 100. You could do it. You're doing it already. Thank you, Schultzley. And Ados, much love, Ty. But, we want to get back out there, because that's where Ty and I are most energetic, most alive, and that's where I think both of us belong. So we definitely are. We definitely are looking for larger funding, but I got news for you. A little secret. When you do things the right way, meaning you don't sell out, it takes a lot longer to get funding. When you don't take money from like the usual suspects, it takes a lot longer to get the necessary funding you need for our vision. But we're doing it the right way. We'd rather be grassroots. We'd rather break our backs. We'd rather work 7 days a week than take money from people that are part of the problem in this country. So thank you for your support. And like I said, we're also pretty soon we're going to have to start planning the 1-year extravaganza. I think March, I don't remember the day, but March is when I came back on this channel. It was not Status Coup last March. It was just Jordan Sheridan. So we're going to have a 1-year extravaganza for that. But definitely tune in Sunday, noon Eastern. If something breaks big tomorrow, maybe I'll come live on that. But definitely Sunday, noon Eastern. Do not wait for a notification from YouTube. Don't expect a notification from YouTube. Put it in your calendar. Sunday, noon Eastern. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard. Ty and I will be live after that to respond to it and cover a few other things, and hopefully raise a lot of money, have a good time, and be there for you, because we are about, you might not be able to read it in the small print, giving the microphone back to the people. And can you get me one of those packages? And just so you're aware, not only are we reporting, but we're putting together packages for all you fine folks. I got 7 more to go. 7 more till we're caught up in the GoFundMe. So if you've donated $100, I'm putting Deke Craft on blast here. DEKE Craft. Oh, I shouldn't show your address. I got 6 or 7 packages to mail out tomorrow at the post office for those folks who are kind enough to donate to the GoFundMe $100 or more. So you'll be getting your shirts, your hats, and all that, and then we'll be caught off. But keep it coming. $100 gets you a Status Coup shirt or hat. Let me see your shirt so we could remind them what it looks like. $100 gets you a Status Coup hat or shirt. $127 gets you both. I gave Ty a hat and a shirt. He has not worn either. I think he lost the hat, actually. But here we go, baby. Who doesn't want that? Boy, is that fly. That is fly. Better put that on. I'll let Ty sign out, but I'll see you. Oh, I'm signing out? Yeah. All right. Thank you for watching. Remember, most people in this country are not lacking compassion. Most people have no fucking idea what in God's name is coming, what in God's name is going on. That's why status quo exists. Peace out. Don't forget to make a new headline.
Hold on.